দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি চ্যানেল 24 এর বিশেষ আয়োজন মুখোমুখিতে আজকে আমরা কথা বলবো যুক্তরাজ্য ও বাংলাদেশের দ্বিপাক্ষিক সম্পর্কের ৪৯ বছর থেকে ৫০ বছর এই ট্রানজিশন পিরিয়ডটা নিয়ে। আমরা একটা খুব অসাধারণ মুহূর্তে আছি। আপনারা জানেন যে 1972 থেকে এই রিলেশনশিপটা স্টার্ট হয়েছে। আর এই বিষয়ে কথা বলার জন্য আমাদের সাথে স্টুডিওতে আছে ঢাকার ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট ডিকসন। ওয়েলকাম টু দিস শো।
Hi. Nice to see you.
It's really been an exciting years, right? So, 4th of February will be one of the significant year for British-Bangladesh relationship.
49th year.
49th year, yeah, right, fantastic. And how do you? It's very tough to summarize 49th year within very short time. But what are the significant moments in 49th year that you really want to mention?
Well, it's been an incredibly good relationship. I mean, there was very strong support in the UK for the independence of Bangladesh in 1971, very big public demonstrations in Trafalgar Square. As you know, the first place that Bangabandhu, the father of the nation, came when he was released was to London, where he was greeted by the Prime Minister, Edward Heath. He was then flown back by the Royal Air Force to Dhaka. So right from the start, Britain has been there as a partner and friend of Bangladesh. And I think in the 49 years since then, you know, it's become a mature, successful partnership in all sorts of ways, whether that's on trade, development, people-to-people, culture. You know, we're close friends.
And was there any challenge? Major challenge?
There have been challenges. I mean, the history of Bangladesh has been a mixed one, you know, there have been challenging moments in that. But I think underlying all of that is the very strong support that we've given in the UK for development of Bangladesh. We've had very good relationships as members of the joint members of the Commonwealth. And what we're doing now, we have a modern partnership in 2021, which is based on our continuing support for the Bangladeshi economy, based on increasing trade between our countries, based on very strong people-to-people links, and based also on climate, where we're working very hard with the UK as chair of COP26, the climate summit at the end of this year, and Bangladesh as the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, to try to produce an outcome that is good for everybody. And we're also working on the shared challenges of the Rohingya refugees, where we are the second largest donor to the international effort and very strong supporters of the effort to achieve the repatriation of the Rohingya refugees back home to Myanmar, where they came from.
Right, we are all looking forward to that. Now, after Brexit, what major changes will come between the relationship of UK and Bangladesh, especially in the trade relationship? Is it going to be the same, or there will be some changes?
No, I think there will be changes in some important ways because, as you all know, we left the European Union on the 31st of January last year. So today marks the first anniversary of our leaving the European Union. For the first 11 months, we were in a transition arrangement. And from the end of December, so from the very end of last year, we're now free to pursue our own course as an independent sovereign trading nation. And what we're going to be doing in Bangladesh is taking that forward through a trade dialogue. I talked to the Minister of Commerce at the end of last year, and later this month, we're having the inaugural British-Bangladesh trading dialogue. And I think what we want to do is two things. One is that exports from Bangladesh to the UK will continue to benefit from GSP, so they will continue to be tariff-free, certainly for the medium term. But what I'm keen to do is have a more balanced trading relationship, because at the moment we are the second largest export destination for Bangladeshi goods into Europe geographically. That's obviously very good. That's a great thing. You know, British consumers benefit from clothes made in Bangladesh mainly. That's very good. What I want to do is try and do a little better in the other direction, because at the moment Bangladesh sells roughly $3 billion worth of goods into the UK, and we export to Bangladesh. We from the UK export to Bangladesh around 500 million. So it's not balanced. That's not a problem in economic terms. But what I would like to see is the Bangladesh market opened up to the things that Britain is good at producing, which is really high-value services. So I think there's lots of opportunity here for British companies to sell financial services that would be good for Bangladesh and obviously good for the companies that will be selling them. But I'd also like to see education as a more balanced thing, because one of the things we're really good at in the UK is higher education and secondary education. And it would be very good to see more British universities able to establish themselves here in Bangladesh. And
Really?
yeah, absolutely. There's a real opportunity. The government passed the Cross-Border Higher Education Act back in 2016. Implementation has not been as quick as we would wish. There are British universities who are very keen to come and establish themselves in Bangladesh, and that would make a world-class British education available to a much wider range of people here
Do you
in
think
Bangladesh.
that is going to be affordable for Bangladeshi students?
Well, I think if British universities could come and establish campuses in Bangladesh, then it would definitely be affordable. And it would be a very good thing, because at the moment Bangladesh is not well represented in the global university listings. And I think having the opportunity for some of the best foreign universities from the UK to set up operations here in Bangladesh would be a huge opportunity for young Bangladeshis, because Bangladesh, as the economy continues to develop, seems to be a remarkable economic development success story over the last decade particularly. But if that's going to continue, then there's going to be increasing need for skills
That is interesting.
training. And it would be great if some of those skills and training could be provided by world-class British universities who are very keen to come to Bangladesh, but at the moment find that there are some quite significant barriers to entry. So those are the sort of things. So on finance, on higher education, and also on healthcare, we're very keen to level the playing field and make this a better market for British companies, British universities, to sell things that we think will be in demand from people here in Bangladesh.
So as we talked about the Brexit, and after Brexit, EU, when it was EU, UK was part of it, we used to have the GSP facilities, and it's going to be the same with UK, or any other changes is coming?
That will continue. That will continue certainly to 2027, and then we'll see what happens beyond then. But no, it definitely continues in the short to medium term. But as I say, what we want to do is to use our ability now as a completely sovereign, independent trading nation to have a more focused trade dialogue with Bangladesh, to make sure that we continue with the GSP, but on the other side to try and address some of the market access barriers which exist in Bangladesh for firms wanting to come and do business here. So I'll be talking to the Commerce Ministry in our first UK-Bangladesh trading dialogue later this month.
Yeah, that'll be great. And as we all know, the pandemic is all over around the world, and though we have vaccine, but it's not fading out. So we have to be cautious, and we have seen the Serum Institute is producing the Oxford trial AstraZeneca vaccine. We have seen other vaccines that UK is researching. Is there any plan, or is there any possibilities that without going via any other institute or organization or body, UK can send vaccine directly to Bangladesh, or maybe some capacity to produce such quality vaccine, so that the amount of money government is spending for getting vaccine, that may go less, something like that?
Well, we've supported the Gavi, the Global Alliance on Vaccines. So we hosted the summit, and we've made a very significant contribution to the global effort on vaccines. I mean, I wouldn't want to get into the sort of detail of how you get vaccination here in Bangladesh. It's obviously very important. No one is safe until everyone is safe. So it's very important that there is a global campaign to vaccinate everybody. We're making a lot of progress with this in the UK at the moment. Over half the world's vaccination production capacity is in India, so it obviously makes sense, I think, for the UK researched vaccine to be produced in India and sent to Bangladesh. That, I think, makes the most sense. But I think what's really important at the moment is to focus on Gavi, as I said, the sort of global approach to vaccination, and to make sure that everybody realises that, as I said, no one's safe until everyone's safe, so everyone needs to get a vaccination. And we are pleased with the way that this is rolling out in the UK. I mean, we have shown that it is possible for large numbers of people to be vaccinated quickly. My own parents, who are quite elderly, have received their first dose, so that's very good. Cool. So our National Health Service is really doing a great job of rolling out vaccinations within the UK, and I think there'll be a good model there for the rollout of vaccinations globally.
Right. And how's the situation in UK? Because we have watching the news, a lot of people are infected with the corona, because it was going down in the last year, but this year it has gone up. And the situation is very tough, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the situation is very tough. So we've had effectively a third wave of the pandemic. So we're doing two things. One is, as I said, is rolling out the vaccination program, which has been a big success. So that's going very well, but obviously, that needs to catch up with the pandemic. And we're also we've introduced lockdown restrictions.
Yes.
We felt necessary to reintroduce those at the end of last year, and that is now beginning to bear down. I mean, the latest statistics do show quite a sharp fall in infections. But obviously there is it has a significant impact on society, and we certainly don't want to go on doing that any longer than we have to.
Right.
But for the moment, those restrictions are needed while the vaccination program, makes sure that the most vulnerable people first, and then the rest of the population after that receive the vaccinations that they need.
Yeah, I think the story, whatever the lesson you have, is also lesson can be for other people, because it was restricted and now it's open. People got infected. Now it's more lockdown, and this is a good lesson for us. People, a country like Bangladesh.
Yeah, well, I think each country is different. I mean, it does appear that the pandemic, for reasons that we don't completely understand, the pandemic has been worse in Europe and North America, and in some other parts of the world than it has here in South Asia. But obviously, what's important is that any sort of remission in the pandemic is used to make sure that people get their vaccinations.
And we've been talking about the UK-Bangladesh relationship, how we both are facing corona situation, the GSP facilities, trade, a lot of things. And one thing we cannot avoid, which is the Rohingya crisis. And it's been 3 years. UK is very vocal, from Security Council to Dhaka, all over the world. And I'm really interested to know that one of the judge of ICC, Judge Jonah Corner, will work for ICC right now. Do you think I should be hopeful for that, because he might be able to bring justice for these Rohingyas?
Well, I think the ICC, what I would say is, justice for the Rohingyas is really important. There are lots of mechanisms. So you've got the International Court of Justice, which of course was where Aung San Suu Kyi did her defence at the end of 2019. But you also have the International Criminal Court. And it is true that Joanna Corner, who is a very well qualified, very experienced British judge, has just been elected to the International Criminal Court. And clearly she will assess the cases as a judge. She will be completely impartial and professional in the way that she looks at cases. But I think that having such a credible figure elected as a judge strengthens the credibility of the ICC as a whole. And so I think it makes it easier or more practical for the ICC to play its role in holding to account those who committed the atrocities that led to the Rohingyas crossing the border in 2017. So I think it's a part of the overall international mechanism, which we hope will achieve accountability and therefore enable safe, dignified, voluntary return for the Rohingya refugees from Bangladesh to Rakhine.
But there is a criticism that on UK especially, the number of FDI for the investment in Myanmar by UK is getting higher. At the same time, UK criticized the role of Myanmar military. Isn't it contradicting?
No, I don't think it is, because I think we've not only criticised, we've imposed sanctions on the Chief of Staff of the Tatmadaw and his deputy. So we've made extremely clear under our new independent sanctions policy that they have committed crimes for which we think they need to be sanctioned. We're obviously very concerned about recent reports about what's going on in Myanmar and the apparent interruption to the democratic process there, and that is obviously very worrying. And we join others, including the United States and the UN Secretary General, in expressing our deep concern and our hope that democratic processes will play out. On the question of FDI, we can continue to trade with a country, and of course Bangladesh trades with Myanmar, but trading with a country doesn't mean that you approve of what its government is doing.
Okay.
And so we are absolutely clear through all the different accountability mechanisms, through our political statements, through our work in the UN Security Council, through our support for the collection of evidence about what happened to the Rohingyas in 2017. We're absolutely clear of our total condemnation of the atrocities and our urgent support for the people who committed those atrocities to be held to account. But that doesn't mean that you need to impoverish the rest of the country, because that's not a way that brings about productive political change.
Right, I get it. We are about to end the show, and before that I would like to ask you, how do you see Bangladeshi media been performing during this pandemic? Do you think that's that shows their ability of they have the power of freedom of expression or something?
Well, I think media is important everywhere. An open society and democracy depend on a free media, and that applies globally, in Bangladesh just as it does everywhere else. I think the Bangladeshi media have been very courageous during the pandemic. I mean, even more during a pandemic than at other times, people need information on which they can understand the world and take decisions. And I know there have been quite significant numbers of victims of COVID among the Bangladeshi media community. And I admire the way that the media community have continued to do their job despite all those pressures that they find themselves under.
Right. So do you think there's a pressure on the media?
Yes, I mean, I think we can all see that there is pressure on the media through the Digital Security Act and other things. And I think, what is important is that in any country, in Bangladesh as elsewhere, the media are allowed to do their job because their job is to uncover the facts and present them to people in a way that means people can understand the world and take part as citizens in a democratic process. And I think it's very important everywhere in the world that the media is able to do that.
Right. Thank you so much, Robert. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and it's always delightful for me and coming to the show and breaking the barriers of pandemic.
Yeah.
That's a significant one.
Yeah.
I believe the UK-Bangladesh relationship go more and more.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
দর্শক, আমরা কথা বলছিলাম ঢাকার ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট ডিকসনের সাথে। আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম যুক্তরাজ্য বাংলাদেশ সম্পর্কের প্রায় 50 বছর আর কিছুদিন বাকি আছে সেটা নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম। রোহিঙ্গা সংকট নিয়ে সবকিছু নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করেছিলাম। অনেকগুলো চ্যালেঞ্জ আছে, চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো ওভারকাম করে উনি বিশ্বাস করেন যে গণমাধ্যম সামনে এগিয়ে যাবে এবং সত্য প্রকাশ করবে মানুষের উপকারের জন্য। দেখা হবে মুখোমুখির অন্য কোনো পর্বে।